fireside chat with a returning Texylvania supporter and addict, hopefully. So I just make it very, very brief. Please help me in welcoming Andreas Cser. He's going to moderate this session. He has 20 years of advising experience and investing in tech. He's a partner at Fraser Finance, and he has board roles across many early and growth stage scale-ups. So if you really want to learn from him, there's many, many things he can teach you. He's a pan-European deal maker. He has had many exits and mergers under his belt, and he's going to moderate a session around AI's evolution and the right path with David Johnson. Please all give a warm welcome to Andreas.
Thank you, Philip. You make me blush. So, is the evolution of AI heading into the right direction? In order to answer this question, please welcome David Johnson. And rather than introduce him, I will ask him what qualifies him to answer this important question. Why don't we sit down?
Well, other than absolutely nothing. No, actually, I am currently the CEO and founder of NovaTek, a small LLC that's focused on using hybrid intelligence to enhance global security. Before that, most recently, I was executive director at the Center for Advanced Defense Studies in DC for 15 years. I worked for Intel Corporation as director of digital security products, and I was the security chair for the 2017 IEEE Intelligent Systems Conference. Also, my education, I went through West Point, 25 years in the military, 6 conflicts, 2 wars, as a campaign planner, Army strategist, master's in strategy from the Sorbonne, and then studied at the Centre de Recherche en Informatique in cognitive informatics, cybernetics, early stage AI, if you will. And I've had a chance to watch this from the very beginning. I'm one of the few digital natives of my generation. My father taught business information systems before computer science at Harvard Business School. We had a computer in the basement that was the basement. In fact, my mom used to give out Christmas wreaths painted orange of punch cards. So that's how long I've been watching the industry. And one of the keys to campaign design or figuring out what you're going to do in decision making has been all about context. And it's all about how is the world changing. So I've been watching these things for a long time, and I think it gives me a unique perspective. Not the only perspective, but a unique perspective on this question.
Yeah, I think we are very privileged to have David here and to chat about this. So, where is AI heading towards? Is it heading in the right direction?
So, I think in general, we've seen AI move in the space of, like most new technologies, where there's a demand and a certain type of technology, almost like the intelligence disciplines. You had like machine learning, computer visualization, you have natural language processing, and now we've built more generative AI, but that came about because now we have neural networks that enable us to do generative AI. And we're doing really well at scaling that. People are spotting the little opportunities across all of the different industries and domains in which they work. And we're also, at the same time, growing our capability to understand those domains. Further, we're bringing those capabilities together in generative AI, and now we're also saying, hey, the next step to improving this is going to be physical AI, robotics, understanding that space. You know, there's some great stuff going on here in Romania around robotics and autonomous systems. And then after that layer, the next layer is to build systems that do solutions, not answers, and they're domain aware. They really are focused on the domain. A good friend of mine here in Romania, Jeluvac, is building a medical pilot, right, which helps with diagnoses. But there's also other people out there. My son works with emergency healthcare records, individually helping to do metadata around tapping into a system called Jane and some other things for individual offices. Again, that's where we are at the individual space, but together we're going to build this domain-aware system. And then eventually that gets to an artificial general intelligence, eventually, potentially. I say potentially.
So would you say you're an optimist in that sense? And what other areas are there that it could head towards, maybe
So-
good, maybe bad?
So I'm generally an optimist. I think there are 4 groups of people in general that talk about this stuff. You've got optimists, you've got pessimists, you've got scientists, and you've got tinkerers. Now,
Tell
the
me
difference
about
is,
these, yeah.
So we talk a lot about, is the juice worth the squeeze? There's a lot of hype. We're all talking about AI. So is it worth all this effort? And for an optimist, we're like, this juice is going to taste great. For a pessimist, this juice is going to taste horrible. For a scientist, I can make juice. And for a tinkerer, it's, do you want cold pressed, or what other kind of juice do you want, right? They're learning, they're taking the tools as they've already been dealt. So it's like scientists are about basic science, and tinkerers are about applied science. So I think you've got those 4 groups, and really each of them has a different perspective on the challenges facing AI. Like challenges like, we think maybe there's massive job loss, or maybe there's energy effects on climate change, or maybe there is the super intelligence from Matrix that's going to take over the world and turn us all into batteries, or maybe there is data privacy loss. All of these things have aspects of what we're dealing with now, and we're already preparing for those challenges to a certain extent. And as an optimist, I see how those things work. Things like the NIST risk management framework already getting out there. And I think that, like I said, an optimist, I think that the path ahead is positive, but that doesn't mean it's perfect.
Are you not worried that, as we know, implementing good things is hard, but screwing up things in the world comes often a lot easier? Are we not worried that, the bad and the pessimistic view will sort of give the good a bad name because it's much easier to implement than the good stuff, changing an enterprise, and so on. It's hard, right? But doing a deep fake and causing havoc is easy.
Yeah, I think that there's 2 parts of that. The first part, Alex Karp over at Palantir said something like, well, if we don't do it, then the bad guys are gonna. Right? So it's not like we can give up on trying to take advantage of this opportunity, because uncertainty is not just risk, it's also opportunity, right? So we can't just give up on that. On the other hand as well, I think a lot of that is overhyped as well, in the sense that people love a good fear. They love a good horror story. And a lie travels the earth faster than the truth. And we hear a lot about, slop. All scams are AI, but all AI is not a scam. You see a lot of things in the media about these scams and bad guys, but all of those points of light that I described earlier, like the thing that Jelu's doing, or the thing that my friend Brad is doing in robotics, or any of the stuff that you see out here going on here in Romania, that's not getting a whole lot of press, but it's advancing the opportunity.
Good. Tell us about a bit about reasoning agents, which are kind of all the rage these days, and agent and agentic AI. Is AI kind of replicating the human experience of division of work and specialization only at a factor of 1,000? I mean, if you look at a doctor, right? He's a brain surgeon, or he's a heart doctor, or he's an orthopedic, whatever. They don't know. They're experts. They know their field. They know their field very well, but they're really bad at kind of looking across. Is AI going in that same way with this agentic stuff, or is it able to kind of look across better and more holistically?
So AI doesn't interact with humans. Humans interact with humans very well. AI is it deals with probability, not possibility. So it's a really good stochastic. H.G. Box once said, all models are wrong, but some are useful. Well, AI is not perfect, but it's a useful tool. And when I talk about hybrid intelligence, there are 2 different kinds of hybrid intelligence. One is this co-intelligence idea that humans are a big part of this challenge. That at the requirements layer, that's a human, and data management could be an AI, and together we can educate and inform each other and grow better at performing certain tasks and becoming more efficient, more effective for humanity. The other form looks at things like symbolic and subsymbolic logic, and how you do reasoning, reasoning agents that can look across, and that would be kind of on the path towards artificial general intelligence. In reality, where we are now, those agents do some very domain, you're starting to build that domain layer that I was talking about, and they are extremely useful, and yes, you can build networks of agents, but I think they do replicate humans to a certain extent in the idea that, an agent is based upon nature and nurture just like a child, right? So the nature of the thing comes from these processors, comes from the tool that's being used, the underlying brain power, if you will, the underlying capabilities and talents. And then you've got nurture, which is the training. And of all of the kind of risks that we talk about with AI, the bigger ones about bias and the rest are actually probably the most accurate and the most obvious, in the sense of you don't train it right, it's garbage in, garbage out, my dad used to say. Computers are simple, garbage in, garbage out. It's not making a mistake, right? Well, the issue is, if we train these things to do certain things, it's going to have certain types of error within the certain parameters that are allowable in that domain, and you have to understand what that risk is. So without being even more confusing, if you're dealing, when I was at C4ADS, when we dealt with law enforcement and we were trying to bring publicly available information and data to their help, we knew that the worst thing you can do is identify a good guy as a bad guy.
Yeah.
They would rather let bad guys get away than tag a good guy by accident. Whereas if you're dealing with counterterrorism, they're much more concerned with letting a bad guy go than getting a good guy wrong. So it's two different types of error, right? And it all depends upon which risk you're willing to take, and each agent is going to be trained differently for the problem set that it's dealing with. So in my mind, you're almost creating little humans, right? And do humans agree on everything? In any room of 10 people, 2 people don't like you, and they're always going to disagree with you. 2 people love you, and they're always going to agree with you. And the 6th in the middle, you got to kind of do something with. But there's never a place where 10 humans agree on anything. I do think that the threat of AI superintelligence and dominance is overrated. I don't think that the danger of bias is overrated. And I do think that the agent approach is where we're headed. But beyond where we are now, kind of thing that Dr. Newton Howard, who is supposed to be up here with me today, one of my good friends, he's working on is reasoning agents.
Yeah.
Because what gets us to a general AI is the ability to look outside your domain. So for instance, I was chief of plans in northern Iraq for the invasion of Iraq. And in that process, we ended up seizing oil fields. Now, military doesn't know squat about the oil industry. But luckily, my grandfather founded an oil company in Texas. And so my uncle knew the guy in London to call, because BP had been the ones who worked on that oil field, to identify what systems within that oil field were replaceable and which ones would be very hard to replace and where the danger was. Identifying SO2 scrubbers where just, the colorless gas would kill you dead. You didn't even know about it. But so if they took one of those out, so with 36 people, we could defend an oil field, right? But that connection, that kind of thing, does not exist in a domain-specific AI. Those are human connections, those are spaces, those are things that we need, that we get from the ability to look broadly across multiple domains, to ask the right question.
Yeah.
Because if technology is like a racehorse. The stronger the horse, the better the jockey has to be. The AI is as good as the prompt engineering.
Yeah, that's
Right,
the asking the right question is something that I've learned. We live in this age where we don't need to know the answers because the LLM is giving us the answers, but we need to know how to ask the right questions.
And we need to know how to check the answer, because again, we're still looking at stochastic systems.
Yeah.
Probability, not possibility, and it doesn't have a great deal of context. So there's a point at which having the AI write the paper isn't as good for you as writing the paper and having the AI help you edit it. So where the human fits in your business process gets to be very important. And that's when we talk about hybrid intelligence in the sense of co-intelligence. And so that's, that's why we got into hybrid security. And if anybody was here 3 years ago when I was here with Newton last time, we were talking about whether that was hype or not hype. And obviously, since I'm in it now, I don't think it's hype.
So, with your optimistic hat on, David, what could stop this in its tracks? What will it make plateau if it does?
Well, I think all technologies end up on an S curve. You think about refrigeration and how we used to chop ice, and we got really good at moving chopped ice from the Arctic and clippers with straw to people's homes. But then a new technology became available, a new science became available. For 50 years, we were kind of stuck with the same problems and questions, and a lot of what we're talking about today was talked about by Licklider with augmented intelligence back in the 1950s. So you're basically seeing now the capability exists because convergent technologies have made it possible, whether it's neural networks or advances in computing, where when at Intel Corporation we say the computational power, the floating point calculation is basically free now. I mean, we're doing some incredible things with the technologies that enable that. As we move into quantum computing, we're going to see huge capabilities enabled, things that we wanted to do but couldn't. So I think that as we head towards, in general, towards this idea of an AGI, because if we ever do go there, if we ever end up with a singularity of some kind, I think you're going to hit that plateau about that singularity point for many reasons, either political, geopolitical, or technological, and if it's or even the velocity of how we get there will shift based on funding availability. Because we're seeing that there's many things that we can do in science that the tinkerers aren't using because, well, nobody wants that juice, or they're not willing to pay yet for that juice. So those things will slow the S curve down, and then eventually we get to the point where the associated technologies necessary to get there aren't ready. And that's what I think will slow us down, is not necessarily the conceptualization, the dream, or the idea, the theory. It's that you can't do that yet without something that has much more power, or we've eaten up all the power available until we come up with a technological ability to generate more power.
Yeah, it's power, it's money, it's it's the science as well, right?
It's the environment. I mean, when we talk about power,
yeah.
I mean, we're talking about cooling, massive data farms, So
now we've alluded to AGI, and let me just ask the kind of obvious question. So, if we do achieve AGI, how will it? Is it a worthwhile pursuit in itself? And if it does, how will it come about? Do you have a sense?
So I think that science is actually not gradual, in the sense that people get very invested in the existing infrastructures and technologies, and they worry about things like job displacement. That huge risk there that could slow things down because we need to digest what we're doing. And when I said earlier about H.G. Box, about all models being inaccurate but some being useful, really the question becomes, where is AGI useful? Who wants to drink that juice? Who's going to fund it? And can we create the juice? That's the one question. That's the question we keep trying to answer right now. The scientists are answering. The reality is, and so what? Right? Who wants to use this? And if we come to the point where we think AGI will enhance our capability to do something in the world, then I'm sure that someone will build it, right? And how will they build it? It'll come about because the enabling technologies make the environment possible. Example, when I went to C4ADS over 15 years ago, I had gotten very frustrated in government and the intelligence sphere and intelligence space, all the stovepiping and all these other things. And I had noticed that, you could get a lot of this information publicly. I mean, we were first trying to do it for free. And I was leveraging social network analysis tools from Carnegie Mellon, Kathleen Carley's stuff, Quesos Aura. And then, we met the Palantir guys and started found a freaking Mercedes to do it with. I mean, really a great tool set. And then as we started realizing what made this possible was the availability of data had changed dramatically. You can know anything about anyone, anywhere, anytime in publicly available information. You just have to make the right data cocktail. Looking for the flow of gold from Venezuela. Use Nicaraguan intellectual property registries, Venezuelan defense contractor registries, Florida property and business registries, and track airplanes with ADS-B transponders that are public. You know, you can do all of that on one laptop with one person as a civilian.
Do we think that as people realize how valuable all of this data is, that people are going to start shutting the doors and trying to kind of be proprietary about it and not let, or is the genie out of the bottle? And
so I'm a big, the genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah.
You know, bad guys who want to have their rep on public, on social media, and they're not going to get rid of it because it's a cornerstone of their business model, right? Well, the same thing is true of things like GPS in your phone. Yes, your phone can be tracked, and in fact, there are corporate companies out there that buy the metadata from your phone from the advertisers on the phone because you allow them to have your location. Now, they know the location of the item, but if I combine that also with where the item is located and I look between 2 and 4 in the morning and see who owns that property, maybe now I can attach a name to it. Or if I know you were at a certain place and I track, this was at 2, now I can tie the name, which would be PII, personally identifiable information, to that item. Now I can track you back 3 years.
Yep.
Sorry, I hit the mic. But the idea is there that genie's out of the bottle, and we are always going to be able to find data, and AI can help with that even in the sense that AI does massive data, moving fast, need an answer now, much better than humans. Mm-hmm. It does algorithms, problems, processes much better. Humans, on the other hand, we do possibilities, we guess, we take risk much better. Why? Well, for those of you out there who are in the dating world, right? You know, you're not going to find a perfect person. Why? Because we're not built to optimize. We're built to satisfy, a la Hosseini, right? You know, we're built to be good enough to survive, which has made us really good at surviving. Not perfect, right? And that's a totally different model for what AI has been built for. It's being built to optimize.
To optimize and to perfect. Let me just ask one more question before we open up the floor for a quick Q&A. What can you say, in this context of the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI, in the context of Central Eastern Europe, Romania maybe specifically? Is there...
No, so I see great opportunity here to kind of leapfrog ahead. Yeah. You know, one of the things that we've seen out there is the erosion of state power, the rise of the super empowered individual. You've got democratized manufacturing, 3G, you've got 5G communications, you've got 3D printing, you've got all these tools now available to the individual or a small group of people. You've got unlimited data availability if you know where it is. The big problem today is not finding the data anymore. It's like, I got too much, right? So the idea then is, you now have the opportunity in smaller countries, in smaller, less resource-intense areas to really make a difference and leapfrog ahead. You're not tied necessarily to large infrastructures that have already been built, and now you've got to fight the bureaucracy to get out to do something new. You can, in the U.S., we had for a long time a series of laws that literally made it impossible to use the internet unless you were tied to a landline because they were trying to protect the copper wire guys, the telephone bot guys. Meanwhile, other countries could leap straight to cellular.
Yeah, so it's about leapfrogging, right? And we have experienced this here in Romania, I think, in the mobile technology and the bandwidth that are available. That we went from very nothing, very low, all of a sudden to 4G, 3G, 4G, very fast.
Also, you're looking at you've got huge markets like the United States, but in those markets, yes, we have market leaders. These big companies and their barriers to entry and all of the rest of that sort of thing. But they're stuck, east and west coast. And there's a lot of talent, but it goes out there. There's literally human talent is the resource that is limited, right? So if you are developing human talent here in Romania, it is globally demanded. I think the challenge in the past has been that for startups, that to get across the chasm, We talked about the chasm and the bowling pins and all that other sort of model of business development, right? To get across the chasm, you had to build that local market. Actually today, because of the technology, the convergent technologies, the supporting technologies, you do global launch. You can build your company here and have your sales be anywhere in the world, not necessarily locally, to build that, your bootstrap up and to build that market space. You don't have to build it locally. You don't have to get local funding.
That's a very, very good message out there into the room. Any questions? Right here. Maybe wait just for a second for Mike.
Question. You mentioned a few times the difference between possibility and probability. Can you please explain more in details what you mean by that?
Certainly, certainly. So I'm sure many of you, because it was a very popular book at the time, talk about Black Swan, right? And being involved in counterterrorism, you're like, well, it didn't look like this was trending that way. Because most intelligence and most people that deal with decision making are dealing with probability, right? So a tool that helps them deal with probability based on projection works very well. Projection is converging about a mean, right, of previous trends and behaviors that you know happened in the past. You're kind of driving in a rear view mirror to judge what the future looks like, right? But that doesn't mean there's not a turn up there. And so you have those black swan events and you have those black swan things, those possibilities that occur that are considered and weighted by different people's perspectives, obviously differently. You know, if somebody had looked, if I had been, growing up around the people that did the World Trade Center thing, I would have thought it was much more possible.
Yeah.
Whereas other people would poo-poo that and say, well, probabilistically and in our history and in our understanding, computers are trained on past, on data. They don't have experience or rumor or cultural things that exist beyond the data that they're trained in. So they work on probability, right? And the challenge is that there's margins out there, and just because it's sitting 2 standards of deviations away from the mean doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's the possibility.
So computers can be wrong. Yeah. Any stochastic system can be wrong.
I think we have time for one more question. If right there.
Good afternoon. It's nice to meet another veteran. I actually moved here from the United States. I was in the U.S. Marine Corps, so wasn't expecting to see another vet.
Yeah.
It's not nice to meet you. My question to you is, at what point is social media going to become obsolete, and how is AI going to be used to facilitate new social connections in both the social and dating world?
Okay, so social media being obsolete. I think we're going to see social media because, just by definition, it's how people connect across distances probably. There's going to be some form of media like that. Will it look like it looks today? Probably not. And I'm sure that people, I met somebody in the car over here, there's a speaker from TikTok, who would have predicted that, So it will change. But I think that the idea of slop, the idea of deep fakes, people, of a certain age were so used to believing in technology. They somehow felt safer with technology than humans. And there are so many people who are raised to believe or feel that, the popular belief systems or the myths, that are out there. And so, yes, there will still be some people that are, confused. But the reality is people are now learning more and more to not just believe, yes, it's entertainment. That cat video that's got 35 million likes or whatever it is, right? It's entertainment, but it's not true. It's AI generated. So the question is about critical thinking. And as we look at the jobs of the future, you talk about job displacement, I believe we're going to create more jobs, as we generally do with newer technologies. But those jobs are going to deal around humans becoming much better critical thinkers. And those jobs are going to deal with people asking the right question, prompt engineering, getting to the heart of the issue better. And so as I look at the social media out there, really the challenge is going to be we're going to stop believing everything that they throw up in front of us. And it's going to have a lot less influence on us. And so you're going to use AI to fight AI. So Well, I was listening to a presentation by somebody in digital security, because that's where I came from over at Intel Corporation. And one of the options is, so what if you have an AI monitor in AI? Could they create a conspiracy? You know, there was all kinds of fun discussion. But yes, we're going to have tools that help us sort out and identify, and we still do, we already do, what is AI generated. And they're going to get better and better at it because people are going to not believe the content. And if you don't believe the content, you don't buy the product.
Yeah.
So there is going to be market pressure for news to be news. And so so the tools will be built to spot the deep fakes and all the rest. And it's going to be like, you know, in the military, we had the whole expensive airplane, less expensive missile, keep moving back and forth. It's going to be a gunfight. I mean, there's no quick and easy answer. There's no silver bullet. And certainly AI is not a silver bullet for humanity's solutions. It's just another tool for humanity's problems.
On the note of gunfight, and thank God we have a truce now in other parts of the world. David, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, and please give it up to David.
Thank you.